Well, salutations to the kindred and welcome to another playing card learning experience. This clip we're going to cover some of the basic card handling skills you'll need moving forward in your journey. The riffles, the dribbles, the fans, the cuts and flourishes. In fact, in this clip I intend to give you 10 of those basic skills you can use moving forward. Hey, let's get started now. I think the ribbon spread is a great place to start, as this is an easily attainable flourish. You'll need two key things to get you started with this. One is a deck of playing cards in reasonably good condition. If you're working on these moves with the deck from your junk drawer, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. So start there, get yourself a good deck of cards. You'll be off to the races ahead of the others. And then for this ribbon spread technique, the really key factor here is your performing surface. And what I have here is a magician's close-up pad. It's basically a fancy mouse pad, but you don't need one of these. You can use a towel, a piece of carpet square, even your couch should do. A few minutes on Google should provide something in your price range. So once you have that nice soft surface ready to work, you get your grip straight, and the grip here is basically three fingers, second and third and first finger. The thumb holds the deck at the inner end of the pack, while the second and third finger hold the deck at the outer short end, kind of near the left side in this case. And then the forefinger is really the key finger for this whole sleight, as it applies the downward pressure. The thumb and the first and second fingers are kind of just there to keep the deck aligned as you make the spread. And the spread is made with that downward pressure, and then you just kind of release the cards off the tip of your finger one at a time, just spread from left to right. I think if you try this, you'll surprise yourself at how easy it is to do this. And congratulations, because once you can do that, now you can do fancy stuff like this, do the ribbon spread turnover. And if you want to have a lot of fun with this, you get a card or two, and you can use the cards to turn the spread over. You can like split it down the center, and this is the ribbon spread turnover. Also great for pick a card, any card. And then when it comes to picking cards, you're also going to want to know the dribble, releasing cards off the tips of your fingers from one hand to the other. This is a useful procedure for controlling and having selections made. And the details on this, not dissimilar from the ribbon spread turnover. The starting grip is the thumb on the inner short end with the second and third fingers on the outer short end. The forefinger is on top of the deck, pushing downward. It's kind of curled on top, applying downward pressure. It's going to let the cards dribble. It starts off the thumb. You release pressure off the thumb, and then also from the tip of the first finger here, and then with the other hand in a basket ready to receive the cards, as that downward pressure allows the cards to escape, one at a time in small batches. This is the dribble. You'll find this helpful for like when you want to have people say stop, so you just say stop and maybe they look at a card. And also when you need to obtain a break, the dribble is great. You have people replace their selections, the card goes back, then you can start the dribble backwards and obtain a little step, so that when you square the deck, you can get your little finger breaks. And those are just a couple of ways that you can use the dribble. And then in the same ballpark as the dribble is the riffle, and there's a couple ways you can handle this technique. The most common is to hold the deck in a dealing position and present the indices to the spectator as they riffle by, and your spectator would just say stop somewhere. So for this, I just have the deck in like a dealing grip, like I'm dealing cards. The deck is beveled, like about a 45-degree angle, so as I place it in there, I use the thumb and the fingers to kind of create this beveled action. This is going to present a little bit more of the index to the spectator as I riffle through, and that's a recommended handling on this. And if you're using this for selected cards, probably what's going to happen here after your spectator says stop is your little pinky is going to go in there and hold a secret break, and this will allow you to control the selection through cuts or passes and things of that nature. And then another way to handle the riffle is just to hold the deck pinched at the inner left corner here and present the lion's share of the pack. The bevel is in play here, so as I put the deck in this position, I will give it that same kind of 45-degree bevel, and then we'll just pluck off the corner here. And this presents an even more fair way for a spectator to select a card, and in handlings like this, we're generally not going to use as much sleight of hand, unless your name's Ed Marlowe. All right, moving forward to some of the more advanced skills that you might find useful, I think the thumb fan should definitely be on your radar. This is a thumb fan, and the starting grip for this is dealing grip but elevated. So we're going to move it forward in the hand about 3/4 of its length. It's actually kind of clipped there between the second finger and the thumb. It's kind of pinching that whole deck for me. Of course, everyone has different hand sizes, and what works for me might be a little different from you, so do feel free to experiment with my suggested grips, but this is what I use for the thumb fan right here. The deck is moved as far inward towards myself, so if you think of this as a clock face, I'm going to move this to about, 7 o'clock, right, before I start the thumb fan. And then similar to the ribbon spread, I'm going to apply this pressure with my thumb. It's going to press down and move in an outward circle. As it does so, I'm going to allow those cards to move off the tip of my thumb as the deck moves around in a semicircle. This is the action of the thumb fan. It's worth noting, if you do a reverse thumb fan with the deck face up, you won't see any of the indice corners. They all appear to disappear, but that's just because the non-indices are showing. And hey, if you apply a little bevel to this reverse thumb fan situation, it helps. Also, if you do it face down, here's a neat thing you can do. Put your fingertips where the indice goes, and it looks like the entire deck has vanished. Again, my fingertips are just covering the indice of that. It's an ace that's on the face of the pack. This also works with a deuce there, and this is the vanishing deck illusion. Now, while I'm on this subject, I'm going to give you one advanced thing to work on here, and that's the one-handed thumb fan close. And let me see if I can give you the details on this. After the thumb fan is made and we're ready to close it, we're going to move our second finger to essentially the inner left corner of the uppermost card. This is going to be sort of the pivot point for the deck to spiral close following the thumb fan. So that's step one. That second finger kind of moves here. The fan is presented sort of vertical here, and then we're going to tilt it, in my case from left to right, giving it a little centrifugal force that's going to cause the left section to spiral to the right. I do release a little bit of pressure off the tip of the first finger as I make this action. These are the basic details of the one-handed fan close, and there's some advanced stuff to practice. Now, while we're on the subject of fanning with playing cards, here's another technique you'll find good use for, and this is the pressure fan. Now, the pressure fan provides a little more control over cards that in particular are not in the best condition, as in this case we're actually springing the cards off the tips of our fingers. And hey, as I'm talking about springing the cards, this is another flourish that you'll probably want in your repertoire, the playing card hand-to-hand spring. And so for the card spring, again, my thumb is at the inner short end with my fingers at the outer short end, first, second, and third fingers in this case. The deck is given an extreme bow. I'm concaving the deck. Is that what it is, a concave? Squeezing the deck, applying pressure, creating tension that I'm going to release from the tips of the fingers, allowing the cards to shoot off the face of the deck into the awaiting hand, which forms a basket. You want the finger at the front, the other finger's in a straddle, kind of a spider web or basket condition to catch the cards as they squirt off the fingertips of one hand into the other. This is a move that will take some practice to get all the pressures and the grips worked out, but it's a crowd favorite, one that's worth your time, the hand-to-hand spring. So as I was saying, it's this springing action, releasing the cards off the tips of the fingers, that will allow us to form a pressure fan. And this is done with the same grip as the thumb fan, with the deck elevated and between the first and second fingers in this grip. My thumb is at the inner right corner in this condition, and the first and second fingers are at the outer right corner. They're going to begin the springing process, giving the deck that extreme bend, and then again moving the deck to 7 o'clock. We're going to move it to this position here before we begin squeezing those cards off the tips of our fingers one at a time to form this nice pressure fan. Again, you'll find use for this when your cards are not in maybe as nice condition. Maybe you're in New Orleans where cards stick together, and this is a technique worthy of your time and attention, the pressure fan. Now, the lapel spread is a similar technique that might be worth your attention, and here we're spreading the cards almost automatically from hand to hand, and this is like the pressure fan or the spring, but in this case the cards are bent lengthwise or horizontally like this, squeezing the deck in our dealing grip, creating a little tension off the fingertips, and then allowing the cards to squeeze off the right edge into the hand from right to left in this fashion. When Paul LaPaul printed this, it was a flourish and a control, and he would spread like this, offer the card to be replaced, and then execute a spread pass, bringing the selection to the top. Note this is sometimes referred to as a hop spread, but I've always known it as the LaPaul spread, and now you know it as that too. Then I have one more for you in regards to squeezing cards and releasing pressure, and this is the classic waterfall technique, and this is maybe the most extreme of all the squeeze techniques. With the thumb at the short end, our fingertips at the outer end extended over it so that when we give it that squeeze, the fingertips can maintain that pressure as the cards create separation. It's this that's going to allow us to release the cards off the tip of our fingers in a smooth fashion, and now you know how to do the waterfall. All right, we'll wrap up this look at basic card handling with a few of the card cut flourishes that you might find helpful moving forward, and let's get started with the kick cut or the swing cut. This is an easy one with our thumb at the inner end, second and third fingers more towards the outer right corner. From here, our forefinger just lifts up about half of the deck. It's kind of pivoting off the thumb at the inner end, and then it swings or kicks the cards into the awaiting hand where the thumb clamps down, and then the upper half is allowed to fall on top. Kick cut, piece of cake. Now, level 2 of the kick cut is to do this way. It's called a swivel cut, and this is the same starting grip with your thumb at the short end, second and third finger at the outer right ends. Your first finger of the left hand is going to lift up about half of the deck and then pivot it off the second fingertip here of the right hand, 180 degrees. It swivels, and then it will fall into a dealing grip in that left hand. You can drop the original bottom half on top, and this is the swivel cut. And hey, when we're talking classic card skills, there's nothing more classic than the one-handed cut. This is what we call the Charlier cut, and here's the details. Our grip is a straddle grip with the first finger and the little finger straddling the short edges, the second and third finger at the right edge, and the thumb is at the left edge of the deck. The deck is elevated in this grip. It's not on the palm, it's elevated upward. This is to allow space for our thumb to release about half of the pack. It falls into the lower part of the hand, and from here our forefinger travels beneath it. It kind of curls underneath, then pushes upwards towards the fingers on the bottom parcel. We're going to push up until it curls that original top portion, allow the top portion to fall down, and then the original bottom portion falls on top. This is the grip. This is the technique of the Charlier cut. Now, of all the classic fancy cuts, this one-handed technique by Darryl has to be one of my favorites. I do kind of feel like this technique is complex enough to warrant its own tutorial. So, hey, I'll get to work on that. You can work on some of the other stuff I've shared today, and I'll see you all on that next video.